All right, boys and girls, thanks for staying up later. Aren't you on the radio someplace right now?
Right now.
Now, what do you do in this situation? Because you've been on this show before.
What I usually do is we get the play date of this show.
Right.
We work it with you, and you call in on my radio show. And at the exact same time we're on, you and I are talking on the radio to sort of dominate the late night.
And then you get calls from drunks who are seriously confused.
Major problems at the radio and television on at the same time. That's what we do.
Do you consider it a major problem that of late you've been involved in a couple of controversies? One was larger than the other. The larger one was the comment on the Joan Rivers show about Miss Pennsylvania. You were a judge in the Miss America contest, and you take it from there.
Oh, I guested on the Joan Rivers show, and she asked me, was anyone ugly? And she asked it twice. And the spirit of the show, it's very hard to explain, but there was just a sense of humor about it, so I kiddingly said, Miss Pennsylvania, I absolutely never meant it. They were all pretty. I judged that contest. I found all of them pretty. In fact, I thought she was really, really super nice.
She was the
ventriloquist.
ventriloquist.
And I did it as a joke, yeah, and I loved the act. And scored her very high, and I liked her. And then suddenly, I guess the Joan Rivers people sent it out on the wires, and it became a 3-day story, and I apologized, and I didn't know where else to go with it. I mean, I just didn't understand it, why it got such a fuss.
Don't you think you should have thought, though, remember, these are young women, impressionable, 20, 21 years old, and their entire self-image, or a large portion of it at this point, is tied up in their appearance or their, you know, that combination of whatever poise and appearance is that Miss America contestants value. So it would have hurt her more than if you made a joke about, you know.
And I deeply apologized. But remember, the age of media today, a young rookie arrives in the majors. He's 20. He's worked awful hard. Played high school, worked overtime, played college. Costas is doing the game, and he swings feebly at the first pitch. Costas might remark, he looked feeble on that pitch. Now, why are you doing this to this kid? He's tried hard all his life. He looked feeble on that pitch to you. Supposing someone said, why are you doing this to this kid? You would say, hey, I didn't mean it. We're just in a different era today, but I truly didn't mean anything.
You know, the girl is a member. I noted this even before this controversy. While I'm watching the Miss America show, among her credentials, it was listed, she's a member of the American Association of Ventriloquists. And I'm thinking, can you imagine the meetings? You know, you're a horse's ass. Who said that? Not me. You know, what is it like when these people get together?
Ventriloquist. You know, I knew Senor Wences. You'd have loved Senor.
Get out of here.
Senor Wences. I went to dinner with Senor Wences, did the great hand, right? I went to dinner with Senor Wences with 5 guys in Miami. 5 guys. We had a table for 6. 6 chairs empty. The lady comes over and said, what are you going to have? And I can still remember. I ordered pasta. Sam Geisen was there, another guy. And Senor Wences says, I'll have spaghetti and meatballs, right? And as the lady turns, he puts a voice right in that chair and goes, veal cutlet parmesan. And the lady spins, and she says, let me go over this again. I got 2 pastas. I got 1 thing. You got 5 guys. Okay, must have been. Did I hear anybody say veal cutlet? No. As she turns, make the veal cutlet well done. Bam. It was wonderful. So I think ventriloquists probably have a lot of fun with people.
But, you know, it ties into that old joke of the guy making his way in his covered wagon, the medicine man selling elixirs and potions in the Old West, and he comes to the crest of a hill on the Oklahoma plains, and he sees an old Indian chief astride his horse, and he says, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with the chief. And he says, can I talk to the dog? And she says, dog, no talk. So he has a conversation with the dog, and he has the dog telling him what a great guy the chief is. He gives me a bone, he gives me dinner. The chief's confused. He says, can I talk to you? The horse, no talk. He has a conversation with the horse, right? Then he finally says, hey, can I talk to your sheep? The chief says, sheep lie.
That's funny.
All right, good.
Costa's getting funny.
What about the thing with Eric Dickerson, who, of course, is embroiled in a controversy with the Colts?
This part I have never, this one. Well, I guess one writer, who I have no idea who he is, said in a New York paper, no one has asked me about this but people in New York, that I had asked a question on the first edition of the Stadium Show about
Which is that TNT Sunday night
pregame
football show.
Yeah, on that show, when I signed my new contract, Ted Turner said to me, you know, we're really, you know, we have a great family here and we're all part of this. Would you appear on the pregame show? And I said, well, I would. I'd like to do just interviews. So he said, fine, we'll do like a 5-minute interview every show. And he asked me to do it, and I readily accepted. And normally we'll do them as we have been doing them out of Washington. First one we did live on the air because I was in New York that weekend.
Yeah.
And we got into a discussion about Eric Dickerson. And here was, in essence, the discussion. One of the four of us. Well, he won't see his doctor. He will only see his doctor, the other one. But the team wants him to see their doctor. And here's the counter. Is he healthy? Well, he appears healthy, but so then I said, rhetorically, we're not talking about drugs here, are we? Okay. If you had just turned on that set, that's a logical question. A modern-day athlete who refuses a physical with another physical. This guy starts, enters a tirade, how that question presumed that he was using drugs. Well,
I think what he was saying, though, is if you throw that out there, people receive things in fragments. You know the way it works, and people can misperceive what was meant. Well, then, in a game of telephone, it becomes Larry King said Eric Dickerson, or maybe it isn't even Larry King. I heard on TV someplace Eric Dickerson's involved with drugs, and that's the furthest thing from the truth, no matter what anybody thinks of Eric Dickerson.
In my whole life, Arthur Godfrey told me something once. I never forgot it. The people who make it please themselves, take risks, and they go on the air. We go on the air live. That's what we do. That's what I do. I'm a broadcaster. That's a live event. It's the easiest thing in the world is to sit home and say, that was wrong or that was right. I mean, hey, critics, that's the easiest thing they have to do. I know it because I can do it. I can sit and write about anything in USA Today, and I can write about something you say and wait 2 days and write about it. They are never in the position of having to do it, so it's very easy to write about. However, that's a fair question. You're talking an inside sports question. I'm talking a rhetorical question. Modern-day athletics. Are you telling me two people are talking about any athlete? And I talked to Eric Dickerson. I've had him on. He understood it, by the way. He understood a rhetorical.
Oh, he wasn't offended.
It's a rhetorical. I did it almost to clear it up. Let's say you're a casual fan. You turn on the set, and the guy is talking about, let's say you go to Milwaukee, and there's a college team in Milwaukee. I'll give you an example. 3 people are talking about a local baseball player. He won't take a physical, he won't report. It was reported previously that he had nothing to do with drugs. Would you ask, is drugs involved? Nobody wants, I want my physical, you want your physical. Would you ask?
I might ask behind the scenes, and having ascertained to my own satisfaction that he was not, report it that way.
I would ask.
Rather than raise the question.
Rhetorical question is fair. I would expect you to ask it of me. I'd ask it again. I'm not going to defend it. I'd ask it again.
You mentioned the USA Today column, which some people get a kick at and some people chide you about, because even as you yourself admit in the recent Playboy interview, the guy says to you, how long does it take you to write it? You said 20 minutes. I'll write it for you now. And off the top of your head, you started writing the column for the guy.
That was a column based on, I used to do in the Miami Herald a lot. And when USA Today started, Alan Newhart said, remember that column used to do with a lot of personal feelings about things? I really like that. And we get more, when I do It's My 2 Cents, is the most mail that gets. And it's just a composite of thoughts. And what happens is, from a standpoint of the people generally like it because you automatically have to compare with it. No matter what's said. If I say something like, I like the new Gillette shaving cream. If you haven't tried it, you might say, I'll try it. If you've tried it, you say, I like it too. I don't like it. But immediately it brings a response. Jimmy Cannon used to write a great one called Nobody Asked Me But.
Yeah.
In which he would just say, it's almost fascist in tone, by the way, because it precludes your thinking something. He would write, if the loan officer at the bank smokes a pipe, you ain't getting the loan. And immediately that would create in someone, if I see a loan officer with a pipe, I ain't getting the loan. It may not or be true. It may be just my impression. I'm always amazed when I see a plane land. So I'll write something like that. These are streams of thought. They're not any big deal.
Including things like, if it's peanut butter and jelly, save one for me.
Correct. Now, if you like peanut butter and jelly, you say Larry's right. If you don't like it, you say he's crazy. But I like getting kidded on it because it's fun to do.
Good. If you like it, I happen to have saved one. This was from a while ago when you were in Los Angeles. And not thinking you were on the show, I just ripped it out of the USA Today because you're a friend of mine, and I knew someday I'd have a chance to kid you about this. King for a week while living it up in La La Land. Okay. I threw a Saturday night birthday party for my wife, Julie, at Spago. The guests included Don Rickles, Angie Dickinson, and other close friends. Diners included Joan Rivers, Vincent Price, Hugh Hefner, Gene Kelly, and Alan Thicke. And it goes on. Okay, and then Saturday night was unbelievable. Marvin Davis, the billionaire, threw a party at his home for Donald Trump. The Sidney Sheldons were there. Merv Griffin, Ava Gabor, Betsy Bloomingdale, Sidney Poitier, Maria Shriver, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sean Connery, Jackie Collins, Burt Bacharach, Carol Bayer Sager, William French Smith, and Leonard Goldberg.
Can I have this second?
Absolutely.
Notes on a week in La La Land where things are not as they are anywhere else, at least for yours truly. Let me lay out a week for you and then give you some particulars. And it ends with, I have now returned to Earth. Now, basically, what I'm trying to establish here is here's a kid from Brooklyn. I never pretended to be anything else. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. I didn't go to college. I can ask questions well. I'm pretty good at what I do. And suddenly, all these fantastic things have happened to me. And I'm vicariously taking you, the reader, in with me at this week in La La Land. I would, as with asking a rhetorical question about drugs, write it again.
See, that's why I think people who know you, whether they know you personally or whether they know you through your work over the years, that's why they smile when they read this, because they say, this is the kid in Larry King. This isn't a guy who's name-dropping for the reasons people name-drop.
I know.
He's standing outside himself going, I can't believe
this is happening.
that
right.
me, who grew up in Brooklyn surrounded by all those characters, that now here I am doing this and I'm getting a kick out of it. But people who don't know you, as you know, might say, what the heck is the deal here?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what I can do about that. I'll tell you something. I've always done all my life. When I go on the air, I go on the air for me. For example, if you're sitting here right now,
right.
If you're saying to yourself, does the lady in Des Moines like this? You're making a big mistake. If this is pleasing to you, fine. And if it goes through to her and she likes it, fine. If she doesn't like it, there's nothing you could do about it. But if you start thinking, what could I do for her? You become part of the 98% of this business, who are safe players. It's very easy to be safe. The easiest thing in the world is to take no risks. In other words, make no comments. Ask no rhetorical questions. You see it done all day. Or go into the confines of knocking others without ever putting yourself on the stand. I go on to be me. I'm me. I've never pretended of being anything else. I'm not an intellectual. I don't know if I'm a journalist. I think I do journalistic things. I'll stake my interviewing with anyone alive. I ask good questions. I'm up on anything going on in the world. I'm a curious guy. I'm a kid from Brooklyn who got lucky, because there's a lot of luck involved in this business. Never forget that. But when you see me tonight, television or radio, if I'm not having a good time, the audience isn't having a good time. And I never in my life thought about, are they enjoying this? I also never met a great performer who did. Sinatra sings for Sinatra. Johnny Carson told me once, when I do the monologue, it better be funny to me. If I think, well, this might not be funny, but you'll like it, it ain't gonna be funny. Has to please you. I do what pleases me. Now, if the public likes that, or a degree of the public likes it, that's fine. And if a degree of public doesn't, I can't grab them by the throat and say, please like me. I gotta be me.
Here's Larry King's new book, published by Putnam, and it's called Tell Me More, and basically it's just stories told to you by people you've known, most of whom have appeared on your television or radio shows, some not. They're just good stories.
Yeah, it's a follow-up to Tell It to the King, which was a big seller, and it's a hoot to do these things, to tell stories. I like telling stories. In fact, it's probably my favorite thing is to sit and just swap stories and go out on a speaking tour and talk about things like friends you've known, acquaintances, funny things that have happened to people, real things, human things, serious things, not so serious things. And the public, you know, hopefully a degree of the public likes to read things like that.
Some of the stories in the book. You asked Nixon a question that seems obvious, but he said no one had ever asked him
Yeah, that's
before.
another thing. Sometimes questions are asked that you think I was with Nixon in 1966. He was going around helping congressional candidates. He'd lost the governor's race in 62 and had pretty much been out of politics. Kennedy's dead 3 years. And at the end of the interview, like an aside, I said, one other thing. Where were you when Kennedy died? And he said that no one had ever asked him. And he was flying out of Dallas that day. His law firm represented Pepsi-Cola. And they had a convention, a Pepsi convention in Dallas, and Nixon went as the representative of his law firm. He's on a plane. As they're taxiing, it's Love Field, there was no Dallas-Fort Worth airport then. They're putting together flowers, and they're getting the whole airport set because President Kennedy's about to arrive. And he looked out the window, and the man sitting next to him said, you know, for 1,000 votes here or there, you could be landing here today. And Nixon said, I'd try never to think about it, and went on to fly to New York. Lands in New York, and a limo was supposed to pick him up, and the guy had the wrong airline, so there's no limo. So he hails a cab. So the former vice president, Kennedy opponent, gets in his cab, and the cab misses a turn onto the Grand Central Parkway. And they go an extra block, and he's on a street in Queens to get back onto the Parkway. It's dark, gray November afternoon. The cab driver gets to the corner, red light, stops. Nixon's in the back of the cab driver, and a lady comes running out of a house screaming, running down the stairs. And she has just seen on television Walter Cronkite say that Kennedy's dead. And Nixon sees this lady. He rolls down the window, and he said, "What's the matter?" And she sees Nixon and faints. And he gets out of the car with the cab driver, and they revive her. People are starting to come out in the street. And she said, "I just saw Cronkite say that Kennedy was killed. I went downstairs, and the first person I saw was Nixon, and I thought the world came to an end." Now, that was just off one simple, "Where were you?"
Yeah.
So then what I started to do was ask, "Where were you?" of other people. And then we put it together down in Miami on WTVJ, where the show is seen. And they ran it, and the show won an Emmy, a local Emmy, on where people were when Kennedy died. And because it's fascinating, and technically you could ask it about, put together a book of it, just a collection. Bob Hope was home in bed, because it was in the morning in L.A., phone rang. He still doesn't know who called. Said, "Turn on your television." Hung up the phone. He hits his clicker, the television goes on. They're announcing Kennedy's dead. Right above it is a picture of him and Kennedy that he had just had framed, that Kennedy sent him.
Sitting on top of the...
Right when the guy's saying he's dead.
The moments...
Those things are fascinating to me. And that's just basic curiosity. Where were you?
The moments that can happen. We may have talked about this one before, but there was a time when Danny Kaye, who was one of your favorites, the late entertainer, was on the radio with you.
Yeah.
And somebody calls out of the blue.
That may be, I don't know if we talked, this may be my all-time favorite radio moment. I don't know if you can have an all-time moment, but that might be it, because it shows what I think uniquely radio can do. But I was on the air with Danny Kaye, and I did 5 hours then, midnight to 5, and he did the whole night. And he was in one of those wide, expansive moods, and we're taking calls. And it had to be 10 after 4 in the morning. This call came in. It was Toledo, Ohio. And I said, "Hello, Toledo." And this woman said, I don't have a question, but I'd just like to say something to Mr. Kaye. I never in my whole life ever thought I would ever talk to Danny Kaye, not ever. But I thought I'd like to tell him something. So he goes, "What?" And she says, "My son loved you. He just loved you, Danny. He could imitate you. He worshipped you. He did all your songs. You were his favorite person. And he was killed in Korea. And they sent home the stuff from his locker, and the only picture was of you. So I framed it, the picture of you and the last picture of him in his Navy uniform. And I put those two pictures side by side, and they're on the television set. And every day, I dust that picture of my son and you. And I just thought, I'd tell you that, because of a very special time you brought to his life. Well, Kay started to cry, and I started to cry, and the woman started to cry. And the three of us, we don't know what else to do, because that could only happen in that magic, today's moment, of a call-in radio show, a national show in the middle of the night. And Kay instinctively said, what was his favorite song? And she said, Dina. And he sang it to her.
Who's perpetually interesting? Could have him on once a week for a year, never run out.
Cuomo.
Who's uninteresting as an interview, even though they're a significant figure?
Robert Mitchum.
Why?
Because you don't talk. There's not. Have you had him on?
No, but I've seen him interviewed. And if you can't crack the case...
Robert Mitchum, well, I think he's a put-on. I like him I love his work. Robert Mitchum. Last time I was with him. How would you describe the way you do what you do? David Duke said that you're the best actor he's ever seen at bringing all the other actors into your phase of the podium. They come to you. You don't go out to them.
Yeah.
And you're brilliant at it. He says, I just work. Oh, what do you mean? He says, I just learn the part and do it. How about directors? They're all the same. All the same, yeah. Well, John Huston or Phil Jones, same. I mean, he said lines are the same. I said, how about one movie over another? It's all work. Just learn a line, go do it. Never think about it. Okay, Bob, let's talk about some actors. What do you think of Al Pacino? Never seen him. Robert De Niro.
So he likes to stay current, then?
Robert De Niro. Don't think I know him. Dustin Hoffman. Can't remember. Do you go to movies? No. Why? Can't park. Can't get a parking space. Do you watch your own movies on television? Can't say as I do. You do this. But I think he's putting me on. I think it's a put-on. I'm telling myself it's a put-on because I admire him.
If you're out to dinner, and let's say there are some people at the dinner table you didn't previously know, they know you, are people disappointed if you don't ask them questions about themselves?
I guess they are. Because I've had people say, ask me questions. Sometimes I've had people say, hang up on me. Brush me off, Larry. Say goodnight, Moline.
I'll make you feel good. Put me on the air. Put me on the air.
And now, ladies and gentlemen...
No. I'm calling from someplace.
Okay. St. Louis, hello.
Yeah, Larry, first-time caller, but I love your show. Larry, my name is Joey.
Can you get to the question, please?
You don't need my name?
I don't need your name.
Larry, I love your show. And last week, Larry, when you had Warren Beatty on, that was one of the best ones you ever had.
Do you have a point,
Well,
sir, please?
yeah, I'm a big fan of Dolly Parton's, and I'd like to know if she has a new album coming out anytime soon.
Thanks for calling.
I just have one thing to say. When my mother reads the story in here about my father, she's going to say, every word of it's true, but did you have to tell him?
Oh, it's so funny. It's one of the great stories in the book.
Good luck with it.
Thanks, Bobby.
Larry King, we're out of here. But you could still listen to him if you wanted to flip on the radio. See you later.
Ball 3.
Ball 3?
You miss saying, you don't say ball 3.